everybody. My name is Hunter Rusk. I'm a Master's of Science student from the University of Guelph. And today I'll be talking about the evaluation of a high-resolution L-band R-pass mounted soil moisture sensor. So first off, I just want to cover what soil moisture is defined as in the study. Soil moisture refers to the amount of water within the upper 1 to 2 meters of soil. This has the most interaction with the atmosphere and can be used for forecasting weather. It's also extremely important to map soil moisture for stuff such as crop health, as it's one of the major indicators of crop health. It can also be used for variable rate irrigation and also, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Yeah. I'm still on the soil moisture slide. Yep, no, that's good. As well as the soil moisture content of the water has an impact on pesticide absorption, and a lack of soil moisture can lead to soil erosion. And on my way to the conference, actually, I noticed a lot of the pivot irrigation systems were bogged down and embedded in the soils because it becomes so muddy. So it has a huge impact on trafficability in agricultural fields. So, as a little background, passive microwave instruments have been shown to be very accurate at reading soil moisture from both satellites such as SMAP and certain tower-based and aerial based platforms. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And aerial-based platforms. The benefits of using a passive radiometer like this is that it's much cheaper to mount on a UAV. Additionally, it can operate regardless of the weather conditions. So if it's cloudy or the lake conditions, it can still measure. And we're proposing unmanned aerial vehicles as a remote sensing platform because these systems are extremely flexible and they can be flown on demand to acquire soil moisture data, whereas satellites, you have to wait for the revisit times. And additionally, their spatial resolution is based upon the flight height of the flight height of the sensor. So one of the things holding back widespread application of UAVs as a remote sensing platform for radiometers is their lack of a processing technique specifically designed for UAV collected radiometer data. As an example, the AAFC crop yield prediction system was improved through using like SMOS's soil moisture data, so it has a lot of applications. So microwave emissions aren't actually the physical temperature of objects, but rather a measure of the microwave radiation emitted from Earth's surface, referred to as brightness temperature. So the basic idea behind it is that the microwave signal for soil moisture detection is actually absorbed by water molecules. So this means that the more soil moisture there is in the soil, the lower the brightness temperature would be, and the less soil moisture, the higher the brightness temperature. So a couple objectives of this study was to evaluate the UAV as a platform for L-band radiometer. Secondarily, validate the radiometer's accuracy by comparing the output with in-situ field measurements, and also to analyze the influence of vegetation water content upon brightness retrievals, and identifying any threshold conditions where the vegetation water content just totally detaches the signal from the soil moisture's water signal. So you can see here, early season, we've got really wet and sparsely covered soils, and we've got pretty low brightness temperatures. And then mid-season, we're starting to get the emergence of crops. They're starting to mature, and soil moisture is starting to decline, and we're seeing the brightness temperature going up over the year. So our instrument that we used is designed by SkyHigh Labs from BC, and it's an L-band polarimeter. It operates in the 1.4 gigahertz range, which is most sensitive to emissions from the first 5 centimeters of soil. Our field of view is 32-degree beam width, which means that at about 10-meter flight height, you have a 7-meter resolution. And we mounted it to a DJI Csrs 600 Pro, like 1 kilogram. So the radiometer experiment occurred at the Elora Research Facility, which is in Guelph, Ontario. And this was an extremely interesting research site because it's had an ongoing crop rotation for about 40 years. So all these plots you're seeing here are planted with different types of crops and have different tillage treatments. They're either tilled or untilled. And this over 40 years has actually changed the soil composition. So even if they're unplanted, the soil carbon and organic matter has changed so that the temperature and soil moisture content of the soils is quite different in such a small area. So it's a really interesting study site for this, because then we can see how different vegetation types, different soil types, and soil roughness impact the radiometer's estimation. And so near weekly flights occurred from May to October 2023. Oh, and I'll go back for a sec. Actually, you can see here, this is later season, and there's kind of an example of what I was talking about. The corn has a much higher brightness temperature because the soil is much drier in those plots versus some of the plots like the barley and soy had much lower brightness temperatures because the moisture was retained by the soil. So our field measurements in 2023 included soil moisture as validation for the brightness temperature, leaf area index, so we got an idea of the density of vegetation on those plots, crop height, again for the idea of how much vegetation mass there was, and then soil and vegetation temperature. We were also accompanied by Dr. Jeffrey Walker, who's from Australia, and he's pretty big in the passive radiometer field. So our results from 2023 were that the horizontally polarized L-band brightness temperature showed a very strong linear relationship, and this was mostly over crops with low LAI. So in this study, we identified those as like wheat, soy, barley, alfalfa. It had pretty good inverse relationship between the brightness temperature and the volumetric water content of the soil. However, over our corn plots, we had a very weak inverse relationship, and that's mostly because the vegetation water content of the corn crops themselves was attenuating the signal. So just like soil moisture can attenuate the signal, water content in corn can as well. And some of this corn can have like 1 kilogram of water per plant, and the planting density can be quite thick. So our 2023 field season showed us that crop and tillage differences impact soil moisture among individual plots, especially the corn plots. And there was seasonal variation in brightness temperature over time. And you can see here, this is actually early season, so it looks a bit different from the previous plot. This optical image was done when the plants were mature, but this is actually May, so the corn isn't yet emerged. So that's why it's such a lower brightness temperature, because it's actually bare soil. Whereas you have winter wheat and I believe that's alfalfa, which is already quite mature. So some next steps for this project were to understand how vegetation water content really affected the season, because we know vegetation water content increases over the year, and that it affects the microwave signals. So here's a gravimetric sampling done over the corn plots at the OR research site. And you can see it kind of gets to a peak and then starts to drop as the plant senesces. So that's my Master Science field work for this summer. It's going to be continuing the objectives from 2023, but really hammering down on the vegetation component. So we've got a new UAV, it's a DJI 350 RTK. We have an upgraded sensor, so it's actually temperature regulating. One of the things we were discovering in 2024 is that the antenna's temperature was changing if we were going for extended flights. Over the short, long-term plots, it wasn't a problem, but we did a large corn plot, and some of the daytime temperatures were 28 degrees, and if we're flying for like 40 minutes, that was affecting the antenna. So we're also doing weekly calibrations to account for any sensor drift over the season, just so that we can always make sure that it's about the same. And then we're doing gravimetric vegetation water sampling over all the crop types, and continuing with those soil moisture measurements and LAI measurements that I discussed from the 2023 season. So in conclusion, we had the expected inverse correlation between soil moisture and brightness temperature, and this was strongest when vegetation is sparse. High vegetation amounts reduce sensitivity to observe brightness temperature, and then a robust sensor calibration process is underway right now to get the better brightness temperature estimations. Processing methods such as radiant transfer models would greatly improve our soil moisture estimation under vegetation. And here's my references. Thank you all very much.